everyone, and welcome back to TV Solo. On today's episode, we're going to be doing pretty much all of the stuff that we haven't done a review on properly. It's just going to be me, and we're going to be covering The Last of Us TV show, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, and John Wick Chapter 4. Time codes I will announce now. The Last of Us spoilers start now after this and finish at 27 minutes in. Shazam starts 27 minutes in and finishes 40 minutes in. John Wick starts 40 minutes in and finishes 49 minutes in. And Dungeons & Dragons finishes 56 minutes in. And then I kind of also talk about Creed 2 at the end, but there's not really any spoilers involved, so yeah. So if you don't want to hear about any of them, then check out where the time codes are for each episode. And Christ almighty. Yeah, we're going to start with The Last of Us because this is the one I've wanted to talk about for a while. I did not enjoy the show. It took me till I think like the second to last week to even bother to, because I really didn't enjoy the first episode. The second episode, I didn't enjoy that much either. The third episode, whilst, yeah, it's a good episode, it's not really what I was looking for. It was like the closest to what I was looking for in the show, because it was a story separate from, oh yeah, by the way, full spoilers ahead. It was kind of a departure from the game storyline. However, I don't think the story worked as well as the game story, so I was kind of like, on its own, it's good. But yeah, so episode 4, I don't even remember. Episode 4 was kind of like meh, because it's when they go to Kansas and they kind of run into the militia and I didn't like that episode. Endure and Survive, again, didn't love it. All of them, I just kind of felt like there were moments of like the story from the game, but the ultimate problem with them was they just weren't the game, and all of the changes that they did were just unnecessary, didn't add anything, or kind of just made it worse. And then, yeah, I don't know. I feel like this, I know people love this show, and I think it's because of the remnants of the game, but I feel like if you watch this and then you go to the game, you're not going to enjoy the game as much, which I feel is a bad thing about this show. Because I think it's whatever one I know there are people who I think love the show and the game, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't have a problem with people enjoying both. I just didn't enjoy it as much. Because my thing was like, you don't need to tell this story again. This story was told so well in the game, and adapting it to the TV, you're going to lose something no matter what. And I think it did. I really do think it lost a lot of the importance of the show. So I'll just cover the things that they changed that I really hated. Tessa's death. My God, that decision was weird. To have the infected come and kiss the fuck out of her and make her die, and then her blowing up everything. Joel's interaction with the militia, not the militia. Are they the militia? The people who run Boston, basically, the QDC people, the QZ people. The guy who they kind of give backstory, like, oh, Joel's helping him out, or Joel's doing stuff to get like stuff. That I didn't like, because in the game, Joel basically just insta kills them, whereas in the show, I know this is just trying to make people like Joel, but I really feel like it doesn't work. There's a really good YouTube channel that Daniel Netzel, who covers a lot of my points a lot better than I will. But yeah, essentially you're in this world of incredibly brutal violence. They kill a child within the first 10 minutes of the game. Like, you're in for like a brutal time. And in this, and Joel is a brutal killer. And but that's because he shut himself off. He shut himself off because he lost his daughter. In this, he hesitates in like every decision to like for general audiences to go, oh yeah, no, he's got humanity. He's not trying to be a murderous psychopath who like just kills on a whim. He tries to do good. Yeah, no, that's not how Joel works. It changes that ending so much, because you're like, no, this is what Joel would do for someone he cares about. He would go on a rampage and destroy and kill a whole building of people. But at the moment, he doesn't see Ellie as that. There's the change that happens in episode 8, I think it is. No, is it? Which one's the one where I don't even remember, because this show really bored me. Because I'm just like, oh yeah, no, this it's the when they meet Tommy. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So in the game, you have Joel not looking for Tommy. Like they haven't even spoken in years, and Joel, when he finally realizes he has to talk to or like find Tommy because they need a Firefly, Joel is so reluctant and only is doing it because he needs to. And then you find out, that like Tommy's just forgiven him, and then they're like friends. Well, not friends, they're brothers again. And it's just, like Joel is shocked because he's like, oh, me and Tommy like, but Tommy just comes in, gives him a hug, and just like it's good. In this, Joel actively searching out Tommy is just kind of like, oh, okay, so you can still go and see your brother because like you're looking for him, you're actively seeking. Like Joel, I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't work as well for me. And I wanted to give this show a chance because I was like, yeah, I like Pedro Pascal. I didn't think Bella Ramsey was well cast when I initially heard it, and I really don't think she's well cast in the actual show, because when you play the game, like whenever Joel does something like completely psychotic and murderous, Ellie like calls it out. Like she's like, what the fuck, holy shit. And over time Ellie becomes slowly desensitized to it, and then when she does finally kill, she's like, oh shit, I just killed a guy. She like jokes it off, but like you can tell it's affecting her. And then when she finally kills David, like you see the switch. She's like completely checked out. She really just cannot focus and isn't there. And because you've built up the relationship with the like her helping you out and you need her, and that's the wonder of the game, is like the game forces you to need Ellie for certain situations because she can do things that you can't, and you build a bond and whatnot. And then when you get to like the moments where you're like needing the ladders, and then when the game Ellie's not checked in and you need a ladder and she's not there, and then she runs and you need to get up, and then you run into the giraffes, you're like, that's a nice moment. In the show it's just like, oh yeah, she's just checked out, and you're like, you haven't built that bond, especially if you really hate her, because she's a psychopath in this. Like, she seems to just have a fascination with murder. Like, they cram 2 moments of the game together where, so basically, like, it's the same situation, but they haven't spread it out. So there's the ambush, and then Joel gets pinned, and he's gonna get killed. And then Ellie slowly, very slowly, like almost fascinated by, oh yeah, I have to do this. I'm enjoying this moment of me trying to kill, and then just shoots the guy in the chest or whatever. Doesn't kill him, and then Joel has to basically end the guy. And it's just like, oh, okay. But in the game, those two, like the ambush happens, you barely get away, and then eventually, through like you escaping, Joel gets in a situation where, like, Joel has been telling her, no, you can't have a gun, I don't need you to have a gun, I can protect you. And then you finally need it, and she's there, and then she saves you, and then Joel's like, yeah, you fucked up. And then there's a moment where they're like, no, it was either me or him. And it's just an acknowledgement. And then you earned it. Whereas in the show, I just feel like they cram those 2 moments together to save time. And it's just like, oh, okay. This didn't have any impact, especially because she doesn't just straight up clock him in the head. She's like, there's a weird drawn out moment where he's like begging her for mercy, and you're just like, oh, okay. And then she's like Yeah, no, I like doing it, and then it's just I just don't like it. It was just weird. Yeah, it just didn't have the same ring to it. I felt like, eh. Also, what else we got? We got, oh yeah, in the game, you go and murder, Robert's gang for batteries, and you're, like, introduced to Joel, who's just a brutal murderer over, like, some stuff, and then he, like, interrogates, forces, breaks the arm of the guy, and then in this, it's just, oh, he's dead by the fireflies. Okay, so we don't see Joel do anything murderous. And, like, I have no problem with them doing the softer take, but I don't think it works for Joel, because, like, this is a man who has completely lost his humanity. Whereas in the show, it's just like he never gets a chance to show us that he's lost his humanity. The show just has to keep telling us, oh yeah, he's brutal, but he's got a sensitive side. And I'm like, it's like, oh, that was the moment with Tommy and Joel's, like, Tommy and Joel basically revealing, Joel telling Tommy why he's here, and the moment where he's trying to get Tommy to take Ellie to the Fireflies. And in the game, Joel goes there and is almost demanding, like, because he protected him, and you, like, see the backstory of, like, why Tommy and Joel don't really click anymore, because Joel's done some horrendous things that Tommy did to survive, like him and Tommy did to survive, but that has left a mark on Tommy, and Joel sees it as a survival thing, and that's all he sees is to survive. He doesn't see surviving and the consequences of what it does to other people. Whereas in this, Joel basically has a breakdown, and it's like, I can't protect Ellie. This is why I'm doing it, because she's like my daughter, and I can't. I'm old, and I let some guy sneak up on me, and it's just like, no, that doesn't really work the same way. And then, like, Tommy is reluctant, but will do it because he loves his brother. And then it's this. It's just like, oh yeah, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? And then it's just like the turn of, like, Ellie runs away and goes into a house, and then you get the diary scene where it's like, is this all we had to do? And I would be, and they'd rip the, like, dialogue straight out, but it's just like, I don't believe Joel cares. I really don't. I really don't think Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal had any chemistry, and I really did not like Bella Ramsey's Ellie. She really distracted me from, like, being in. And I can tell you the exact moment that I went, oh yeah, no, this is why I hate it, is because when the last episode, which is way too short, I don't know, I don't get the lengths of these. They should have made these, like, hour-long episodes, because the game takes about 15 to 20 hours to complete, whereas the TV show's, like, less than 9 hours. It's really short. Like, they get progressively shorter, and it's just like, you want the final to be, like, significant, and it's like 30 minutes long, and it's just like, oh, okay, you've really, and you have, like, 10 minutes dedicated to like the backstory of how Ellie's immune and her mum, which is played by Ashley Johnson, who, as soon as I heard her voice, I was just like, oh, this is Ellie. This is why. This is the reason why The Last of Us works, is because of Ashley Johnson and Troy Baker. Like, those two, especially, like, Troy Baker in the show. He's playing James, and he's, like, got a humanity to him, and you can just see the acting of those two people, and you're just like, it's nice that they put them in here, but you did this better, and it's distracting. And I'm just like, oh, okay. Oh, Ellie gets immune because her mum gets bitten, and then the mum cuts the cord, and then Ellie's like, oh yeah, I didn't need that explanation. I don't feel it's, like, necessary to add the explanation as to why. I know you have to do it for, like, audiences, but the game did it, and they didn't do it, and you don't know if she's gonna it will work or not, but it's that hope that you cling to. You don't need the explanation. What else did they add that was, like, fine? I thought the very, very beginning, where it's like the three scientists talking about how the global pandemic would basically start. It's like, oh, the fungus is whatnot, and if the temperature of, like, it's the environmental impact or whatever it is, where the fungus can, if the temperature rises, then yeah, these fungus would be able to grow. I thought that was interesting. but like it doesn't add much. I always figured that it would just be like something like that. And also to have them predict it like perfectly in the show kind of just kind of takes the shock value. I thought the introduction of like, oh, it's in the wheat, and because Joel and his daughter, I thought the new daughter was all right. I didn't have any problem with her. I thought the weird addition of like the neighbors, like trying to like humanize the neighbors. It was fine. It just didn't really work. And I was just like, oh, Joel just kills them and it's more shocking. I'm like, no, it's not. It's more shocking to just have the neighbors banging on the door, Joel come in, bang, shoot them, and then grab his daughter and go. I thought the death was fine. Ultimately, it's just like, I really thought they were going to end it at the death, but then I think it continues on. Yeah, because I thought that would be the episode. You end on the death of the daughter, and then the next episode is where you kick off with Joel and the QZ and all of that, and then you meet Ellie in the next episode. But it's all in one episode, and you're like, oh. And the episode's like an hour and 50 minutes long, and if you're doing it like that, I'm just like, ugh. So, I think the one that everyone loves is episode 3. That was the one, because I hadn't watched it by the time that everyone was banging on about it. Because I dropped off quite quickly. Yeah, I think I took like 3 weeks to get to episode 2 after episode 1, and then episode 3 it took like 2 weeks after that, and then I watched episode 4, 5, and 6 within like 2 or 3 days, and then 7, 8, and 9 pretty much in the week before we were meant to do the review. But yeah, episode 3. In the game, you're introduced to Bill, and Ellie and Joel meet Bill, and Joel already knows Bill and all that, and I feel like this didn't work. Not because it's like, oh, the story's not good, but it's too happy. It's too happy an ending. It shouldn't. Like, the game is a lot more brutal in the fact that Bill basically, it's like alluded to that Bill had a partner. And over the course of the thing, you like read messages and stuff like that, and then you finally find Frank in hanging him, like hung because he got bitten, and you can just it's a more like, oh, this is what Joel is trying to avoid, is finding love. Whereas in the show, it's just like, oh, we get all this backstory, and then Ellie reads it in a letter, and it's like, oh. And Ellie takes Frank's pistol, and it's just like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, fuck him. Like, Ellie never gets to interact with Bill. I don't know. It just didn't work. Like, also, that's the other thing. Like, Bill's whole thing is, like, he's built, like, the traps and everything around the base, and, like, it's, like, clicker and, like, zombie-proof. The runners and all of that. In the show, he just builds a fence, and then you never see any zombies. This is the problem with this show. There's, like, barely any zombies. And when they do turn up, they're just, like, ex machina, like, distractions to, like, clear the bad guys away. And it's so shit. Like, this is meant to be, like, a zombie. Like, in the game, the presence of the zombies, like, the clickers and everything like that is terrifying. Whereas in this show, it's just, like, an inconvenience that you occasionally deal with. And it's like, oh, humanity's just, like, shit at dealing with it. There are no like things, and the only episode is it's just to like the one where the Tess gets bitten. It's like, oh, okay, and then the way they use them is just like, oh yeah, because in the game Tess's death is she gets killed by people. She gets killed by like the QZ guards and stuff like that who are hunting them because they escaped because Joel killed. I think that's how it is. Either that or they're just random bad guys. Maybe like, yeah, I can't remember. It's been a while. I played the game a while ago, and I can never remember. I think it's just human. Like they just get like, I think it's the QZ who are just hunting them down, because Ellie's infected, and then Tess is basically her stand is basically to take out a couple of the guards whilst Joel and Ellie escape. Whereas in the show, it's just like Tess gets cornered. Like she could have run. But yeah, she's infected, and then an infected spots her and then makes out with her. It's so weird. It's such a weird moment, and I think that's why I checked out, because I was just like, episode 2 really just fucking pissed me off with that. It was just so stupid. Like, why? And then Tess blows them all up. It's just like, oh. Like, And then in the fucking, they add a new character who I thought they would like, because it's like the Sam storyline, whereas in the game there's no like villain. It's just all of them are hunting them down. You don't see the mastermind behind it, and you don't get the backstory as to why Sam's running. It's just like, oh yeah, they don't like people, and they just want to run the whole thing. And it's just like, yeah, okay, cool. You get the point. And then with this, they try and introduce the reason why Sam's being hunted, and it's because he sells out some woman's sister's brother. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. And they literally have to spell out the point of what the end of the game is going to be, which is, am I a monster for only caring about Sam's brother, Henry? And like Henry does it because Sam's like, I like the change. I didn't mind the change that Henry was deaf and had to use the little tablet thing to talk, because I thought it was fine. But the moment where it's like, yeah, just I think the game just does everything better. But where the sister basically comes and they've got they're surrounded, and then it's like, oh, the zombies happen, and then you get the bloater, and it's like, oh. So this is how you use a bloater? Like, this sucks. And it just kind of just comes in and wallops everyone, and then you're just like, oh, okay. And then they manage to just run away, and then it's just like, oh, okay. Cool. So shit. It was such a shit moment, because you just get a horde of zombie, like, runners and all of that just come out the ground, because, like, they sent them underground. But, like, when they're in the tunnels, there's nothing. I was expecting them in the tunnels. And then you have the moment where you get separated and Henry and Joel are together and Sam and Ellie are together, and then you have that moment in the game. Whereas now it's just like, oh, we get out and then we get hunted by a sniper. Like, they take the moments from the game, but they don't build any of the backstory behind why they work. It's kind of like just taking the cutscenes and going, yep, this is why, but the game builds off the cutscenes and makes little moments and everything like that. But yeah, what else? Oh yeah, the David episode where we get introduced. Oh no, we should talk about Left Behind. I thought the Left Behind episode was fine. I think that's the least I hated Bella Ramsey's Ellie, because it was just like, she's still fucking annoying in it, but like she has moments in it where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I actually see you care. I thought the Riley actress was good. I don't know. It worked, it didn't work. It's like, I feel like the stuff where they have like Joel and like she's cuddling up to Joel and it's just like, oh, she's gonna leave Joel, and then she has the flashback and it's like nah, and then I'm gonna do everything I can to save Joel. I'm just like, I didn't believe that for a second. Like, I don't know, having to sew him up, him just wheezing and just it just didn't work for me. Oh, that's the other thing I hated about this, the moment before where it's like, because in the game Joel, the reason Joel gets injured is because he gets pushed off a balcony and lands on a metal pipe. In this, they just kind of have a group of people come up and then they have a little punch on, and then Joel gets stabbed in the chest. And I was just like, oh, that's so shit. That's such a dumb way to do it. Like, they find the research thing, they go, oh yeah, we need to do this and that and that. And then it's just like, oh, we have a little bit of a punch on, and then Joel gets stabbed. And you don't even see him get stabbed. It's just somehow there's a knife in his chest, and I'm just like, oh, this is shit. I knew it as soon as I saw it. I was like, because there's like 5 seconds left of that episode for them to do it. And I was like, they're not going to have a drawn out, like, them running away sequence. They're just going to have, like, a little fast forward. That's what I found like the show was. It was just a game on fast forward. And it's, like, skipping over stuff because it's just like, oh, yeah, no, I know this. And you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, that I didn't like the way Joel gets injured. It didn't work. But yeah. The David episode I thought was fine. I didn't really find the guy playing David that's scary. In the game, I never really love. I find the sequence in the game of David and Ellie, like the escape. I don't like rape, and like it's shocking to hear someone say they don't like rape, but that moment freaks me the fuck out every time I play it because I really get shivers down my spine. I'm just like, ugh, I hate it. And my issue with it wasn't that they did it badly. It was just that in the game, the Ellie does kill David and like chops him constantly, but it like she doesn't stop. Joel is the reason why she stops. Joel drags her off, hugs her, says it's me, it's me, it's me, it's me, and then Ellie finally realizes and stops. Whereas in this, it's just Ellie continuously stabs and then stops and then walks out shell shocked, and then Joel kind of just happens to be outside and goes, "Oh yeah, it's me." That threw me off. I like the moment in the game more because Joel literally has to stop her from. That's the only reason. Like it's a very traumatic moment, and I feel like they did it as well as they could. But if they'd done it where Joel actually was there, I think that moment would have done well. Other than that, I'm like, I can't complain too much. They do it pretty much to the game. I feel like the inclusion of having like the other villagers, like the mother and child, didn't really add anything. It would have been more interest because you like have it so that they can go, oh, they killed the dad, but like it would have been more like I don't believe that guy would keep that sort of company. I don't know. It's a touchy subject, but like I didn't find it as well done. And then yeah, the ending, because of all the issues that I had with the way that they get to point A to point B, it just didn't work as well. I didn't believe that Joel would go through all of that for Ellie in the show. It also is like a complete 180 of what Joel is in the show to the end. It's like, oh yeah, he does this 180 and flips. Because he's like shows compassion, and then he's just like, no, I'll go and kill everyone for that. But no, in the game, Joel is always going to do that. It's just now he has something to direct that towards. He cares again, but he will not let that die. Whereas in this, it's just like, oh no, he's become this. And Ellie is now, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't work. But yeah, so that is my thoughts on The Last of Us TV show. We're going to jump to Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I thought this was fine. Until the very, very end. So again, full spoilers for Shazam! Fury of the Gods. It starts with kind of picking off where the other one ends, where it's like, he snaps the staff, and then the daughters of Atlas come to a museum where the remains are being held, and they grab it, and then you kind of like, oh yeah, these guys are cool, like threatening, because Lucy Liu's character basically turns everyone against each other. And there's like a zombie-like a thing where they're all just whispering in each other's ears. And you're like, this is pretty cool. And then they just turn them all to stone. And you're like, oh, okay. And then that never really gets used again except for like one or two moments. And you're like, okay, so she has this cool power. And then she kind of... It's just one of those things where the people forget what their powers are. And then I thought the through line of Billy basically wanting to keep his adopted family, like foster family, together, and they only use their superpowers together, and they don't go solo, and he's grabbing on too close, like too tight, and it's making people want to go away, and it's because his like whole family, like his mom didn't want him, and now he's scared of like people abandoning him, and he's got this like trust issues of people not like keeping him, and he's about to age out of the foster system, so he's like, I don't want to leave, and so he's trying to keep everyone together. And then at the end, it's like, no, I have to do this to save people. And so he does it solo to save everyone. I thought that storyline worked. Zachary Levi's fine, but the disconnect between him and the kid playing his like younger self is so different. Because the kid's just like a normal teenager, and then Zachary Levi's playing like a 7-year-old. Like the switching is so weird and disconnected. And also, they have him in just, like, Shazam form for most of the movie, for no real reason, when he doesn't need to be. Like, I feel like Shazam should just be, like, a thing he needs every now and again. But I feel like they have Zachary Levi just because they need Zachary Levi. But you don't get any real moments with the kid. You get, like, the one moment where his mum's, like, his adopted mum is just, like, he has a moment where he's, like, all of them go, oh, bye, mum, and then he goes, bye, and says her name. And the adopted dad guy goes, in time. He'll do it in time. Because the mum looks devastated. It's like, oh, he doesn't call me mum. And then at the end, you're like, you have the moment where it's like, oh, yeah, no, I love you, mum. And it's just like, oh, okay. because she doesn't want to talk to Shazam, she wants to talk to Billy, so you get that moment. I thought that it worked, but yeah. Rachel Ziegler, I really enjoyed as the other daughter of Atlas, who likes Freddy. I thought Freddy was really good in this, but I feel like the guy who plays Freddy should have been Shazam, because his personality matches more with Shazam's, like Zachary Levi Shazam, and whoever plays the older version of Freddy should have played the kid who plays Billy, because their personalities seem to be the other way around if you're going by like how they act. It just seemed weird. But yeah, the wizard, he's fine. It's just kind of weird. I feel like, yeah. Okay, let's just get to the bit that really annoyed me. Because the cameo of Wonder Woman, because they do two cameo sort of situations. One where it's a joke, and one where it's like dead serious, like at the end. And it fucking ruins the movie, the one at the dead serious one. So the joke one, which is good, is Billy's dreaming, and well, it doesn't look like he's dreaming at the beginning. It's just like him and Wonder Woman sitting across from a table. You don't see Wonder Woman's face, and you're like, it's a cameo. Wonder Woman's there because he's trying to date her, and it's just like, I know we didn't work out, but we need to stick together and do whatnot. And she walks away, and then it cuts to a face shot, and it's the wizard, and it's his face on her body, and it's like, God, really funny. And you're like, that's good. And if they'd used that as the marketing, unlike what they do, which is actually the actual Wonder Woman reveal, would have worked and maybe like done good to get people in. And then when people do go, there's a Wonder Woman cameo, you go, yeah, it's that cameo where the wizard's on Wonder Woman's head or body. And you're like, that's good. And then you'll get actually surprised by Wonder Woman's presence, even though that it fucking ruins the movie. Because after the battle, where Billy saves the day, and it's just like, yeah. He basically dies, and the staff has no power because Billy overcharges it and blasts the Lucy Liu, who turns out to be the most evil of the sisters, and Helen Mirren's sister, and Rachel Ziegler's turn on her because she's gone crazy. And then Billy traps her in a bubble and overcharges the staff and whatnot to kill everyone, because it's just well, there's no way of defeating them without exploding the staff and trapping them in the bubble, but I'm gonna make it so it shrinks down and only kills the people inside the bubble, not everyone who's trapped in the bubble. Because they shrink the bubble, basically. And I thought that was a good moment. I thought, because of him learning to separate, I don't need to hold on tight. This is why I'm fighting for, is to save the family. And in order for them to work, sometimes it's worth fighting for solo to save them. And then it's just you're dead. And then it's the staff's gone. They actually bury him. And it's quite sad. You're like, oh no, Billy's dead. They actually had stakes to this movie because the DCE is dying, and this is a good send off. It's a pretty fine movie. It's enjoyable. There's good and bad moments. I like the first one for similar reasons. But it's pretty much the same as the first one. But yeah, and then Wonder Woman out of nowhere comes in, and because they go basically, there are no gods to because Rachel Ziegler's character is still alive, but she loses her powers because her sister takes them away, and Helen Mirren dies because she gets stabbed in the heart by a dragon, and then after closing the portal, the bubble, she dies because she's like, well, time to check out. And then the other sister's dead, and they're like, only the gods can use this staff and restore any power to it. And it's but there are no gods because all the gods are dead. And then Wonder Woman, who isn't a god, is a demigod, comes out of nowhere and goes, yep, I've got the power to repair the staff and imbue it with my power. And then she taps it on the ground and goes, blah, 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 blah. And then Billy climbs out of the grave and goes, ugh! And then they give all the powers back to the siblings. And it's well, you took all the stakes out of this movie. And it's just oh, well, great, cool, whatever. I'm just like, great, cool, whatever. And it just really ruins that movie because I'm like, okay, this is DC putting this character to rest because they're not going to use him in the next 10 years of the phasing. Wonder Woman, it's a nice joke, but like, yeah. But also, this was the other thing is DC decided to actually market Wonder Woman's cameo in its marketing material. So you see, they did it with the Superman thing. It's just like, oh yeah, this is why you should see this movie because of this cameo, even though it ruins the end of the movie. Because Superman is right at the end of the movie. He's an end credit scene. Wonder Woman is right at the end of the movie, just before the credits. It just ruins it. It's just like, oh, you take the one exciting thing and show people because you worry that no one's going to go. And that's the thing. It's just like, oh, god damn it. And yeah, if you wanted to do that moment, you didn't need Wonder Woman there. You could have done a Batman v Superman. The grave slightly has some dirt lift up. If you want to make a joke of the fact that you haven't had any cameos of like people except for the bottom halves of their bodies, like you could have the staff flicker, and it's like, oh, it's recharging. Like you don't need to have, like if you want to have the cat, you don't need Diana to come and go, magic staff, and then bash it on the ground. I'm a god, which you're not. You're a demigod. You don't have the powers of. You do have the powers. I don't know, but she's not a god. She's a demigod because she's born of gods. So yeah. Well, I don't know if she is. I don't remember, but she's. Cause I don't know. I don't think Athene is. What the fuck are the no, it's not Atlanteans. That's fucking Aquaman. Themyscirans. That's the one. They're not gods. They're like superhumans or whatever the fuck it is. I don't remember. Anyway, I don't think she's a god, like an actual god. But whatever. And then you get the mid-credit scene, which is also confusing because it's like, also this one had controversy because, like, it was meant to be the Justice League, Justice Society, but The Rock basically came in and said no. So you get the people from Peacemaker, who try and recruit Billy into the Justice Society, and I'm just like, why the fuck? Why? Why is this? Whatever. And then this is the cameo. This is the end credit that I didn't actually see because when I went to go see the movie, it was at like 8:30 p.m. So the movie didn't start until about 8:50, and it's like a 2-hour 10-minute movie. So it finished at around like 11 p.m. and there was like 3 other people in the front row. And I was like midway back, so there was only like 4 people watching this movie. And those 3 people left after the first like mid-credit scene. And then I was just sat there on my own in the theater at like 11 p.m. and it was the last showing of the cinema. And then, as they do, the movie theater staff came in to kind of clean up. And I was just kind of sat there and I was like, yeah, they want to go home because this is the last screening. And I really don't care that much about the end credit because I can just Google it later. So I did. And I just walked away and I did not spend like 5 to 10 minutes waiting for the end credits. So it turns out it's Savannah, who was the villain of the first movie, is still incarcerated. And the little caterpillar thing, Mr. Mind, comes in and they have a little discussion. And he goes, I have been here for so long. And they go, oh no, it takes a long time to get the plan ready. And then it's just like, oh, that could have been fun if the DC was going to ever continue this story. But yeah, overall, I thought it was fun till the very end, where the DC problems of what happens in the future kind of kick it and kill it a little bit. Overall, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fine, okay story. I thought it was as good as the first one. It's just, there's a dragon in it, and that's about it. The casting's fun. I like the family. I think they're just not really utilized much. I feel like they should have just had all the family lose their powers. Billy's the only one who doesn't, and then it focuses on him more. But yeah, ultimately, it's kind of a mess, but it's fine. It really doesn't matter if you watch it because it's not going to be a part of the DCU going forward. So, or it may be. I don't know. Those end credits really fucking confuse the shit out of what is and what isn't. So it might be. So that's that. Let's move on to John Wick Chapter 4. I have not really ever loved the John Wick movies. I found them fine. I like the action. The story, to me, is a bit weak. I thought the first one's good. The second one's fine. The third one I really didn't enjoy. I think they've been going on a downward trajectory. This one I really enjoyed, though. It's very visually nice to look at. The fight scenes are good, if not a bit too drawn out. And don't get me wrong, I love a drawn out fight sequence. Like, I like a brutal, dragged out, like, slog of a film where you basically see the deterioration of the battle as it goes on. Like, you just see the brokenness and like it just gets down to like just kind of like brutal like hits and stuff like that. And I like those sorts of fights. I think Atomic Blonde does it really well, which is one of the directors of the first movie's side film, David Leitch, who did like Deadpool 2 and stuff like that. I've liked all of his movies. But yeah, this one I really enjoyed. Because I feel like the story was actually kind of cohesive and made a bit more sense than the others. You actually get the clear goals. Full spoilers, by the way. John Wick is dead, which is nice. Because it gives an actual conclusion to this. Like, he gets his freedom, and then he, at the end, because he's been like actually taken damage, he's finally at rest because he got out. He got out, and then he's dead. Which I thought was kind of like, oh yeah, no, it kind of makes sense. But I thought all the supporting cast was really good. It sucks that Lance Reddick died in the film and in real life, because it's just like, he's really good, and I feel like he's missing in the rest of it, because his action sequence in the third one where they're like taking down all the guys in the hotel, I think it's the third one, like him and John Wick working together was really cool, and I really hope to see more of that. But it's a shame. But yeah, the Japan, like where they go to Japan and you get like his friend and his daughter, like the concierge and all of that stuff, really good. Donnie Yen, really good. Bill Skarsgård, I liked, really like a good villain. Hiroki Sanada, I think that's how you pronounce it, as the hotel concierge of Japan. Really beautiful hotel sort of fight sequences. Just really enjoyed it. The nightclub fight, really good. Really enjoyed that nightclub fight where just the raves going on in the background and all those people. I really find the world of John Wick quite fascinating. Just because like there's just people just do not give a shit about violence. Like you can just have a brutal dragged out fight sequence and people just continue dancing in the background under rain. Like it's weird. Yeah. Not much to the plot. It's John Wick's trying to get his freedom. And he's just killing anyone who gets in his way, basically, to do that freedom. But he runs into the problem of Donnie Yen gets hired by Bill Skarsgård to, like, stop him, basically, because he's one of the marquis. And John Wick's going to kill everyone at the table, so John Wick has to play into the rules of the thing, to, like, play into the rules. Also, what I find fascinating about this is the bounty seems stupidly low to me for some reason. Because they put like 20 million on him, then it's like 26 million, then it hits like 40 million. And I'm like, that is life-changing money, but for some odd reason it feels so low for the stakes of the movie. And it's just like, oh yeah, okay. But the really, like, the nightclub one is really good, but there is a top-down like shootout in a building where the camera like tracks them overhead, and John Wick's got a shotgun with incendiary rounds which like shoot fire, and that is fucking stunning. I really love that sequence. That sequence is so cool, and it really does just remind me that John Wick is basically a video game. Because that entire sequence just felt so video game, top-down, like, RPG strategy game. Like, that was what I was thinking throughout this entire thing. It's like, John Wick is just, like, a really good video game movie for, like, a shooter. Because, like, it's so unrealistic how much he survives. Because there's a bit where he's, like, on a route, like, the Arc de Triomphe I think it's the thing in Paris where it's like a big roundabout, and he just gets smashed by like 50 cars during that entire sequence, and he just gets back up and just walks around. The only issue I had with the fight sequences is they kind of just end kind of abruptly, because it's just like, oh yeah, we need John Wick to survive, so we'll have him basically, like, there's loads of people after him. We'll have the big action sequence where he fights someone who has stakes with him, and then he'll just kind of knock that person down and then go. It happens a few times. It's just like, oh, okay. I thought the fight sequence up the stairs was really good. And then it's just kind of funny that he gets pushed down the stairs and then he just falls down all the stairs and then he has to go back up the stairs. I thought the way that they were going to do him beating the bad guy was both Donnie Yen and John Wick were going to turn their guns and shoot Bill Skarsgård in the face. Turns out, no. Because that wouldn't have done anything. So he needed Bill Skarsgård to actually get into the fight because his cockiness and ego takes over. And then John Wick didn't fire because he took the bullet but didn't fire, so he could use the bullet to shoot him in the head, like a John Wick should. But yeah, I thought the daughter of Hiroyuki Sanada was really good. Her fight with John Wick through the Japanese tower was really cool. With her dad as well. And then the dad dying to Johnny Yen was kind of just sad because his pride took over and he didn't want to. Like, Donnie Yen gave him a chance. I was like, oh, dude, don't die for this. But yeah, he did. And then you needed a plot line for the daughter to go, yeah, if you don't kill him, I will. And then you have the end credit scene, which I did stick around for. Which I made some theater staff people very annoyed because I was there for a while. But yeah, it's the daughter, Kane's daughter is part of the reason why he's fighting, because he wants to be free from the thing, and he'll get his freedom if he kills John Wick. Also, Donnie Yen being blind was sick. Not sick as in like, oh, it's good that Donnie Yen was blind, but no, I like Donnie Yen playing a blind character because he's the best part of one of the best parts of Rogue One, where he's playing a blind guy with a stick. But yeah, so Akira, who's the daughter of the guy who runs the hotel in Japan, is gonna like either die trying to fight Kane because Kane basically is better than her, but maybe she catches him off guard because he's free from the thing. I don't know. We'll have to see if that ever has any consequences. What I didn't know was apparently the family who John Wick goes back to go and get back in so that he can fight Bill Skarsgård is apparently the premise of the Russians. I think they're the Russians. I think they're meant to be Russian, but they're the spin-off show TV movie with Ana de Armas. So I'm kind of interested in that. Like, they're apparently meant to be part of the Ana de Armas spin-off thing, Ballerina. So that could be interesting. Is there anything else? Oh, the guy with the dog's cool. I liked his stuff. Felt like Halle Berry though, because he just has the dog bite their balls off. And you knew he was going to switch sides because John Wick saves his dog, as is the way. But yeah, no, ultimately, it's a little bit long, but no, it's really enjoyable. I do think this is the best one, and it's like it has stakes that you believe. So yeah, I think that's everything I have to say about John Wick 4. And so we shall move on to Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. This one I have literally just come out of the cinema to do. And I don't know if I missed anything, because I basically walked in as I think the beginning of the movie started. So basically where I got to is, because I was a little bit late, because normally I'm pretty good at timing the ads to when they start playing the thing, and I think I just got there because it starts with like them bringing in a prisoner, like a big orc, to a like isolated like ice prison fortress thing where Chris Pine's character is, and what's her name? Oh, what is her name? She's from Fast and the Furious. Michelle Rodriguez? Why can I not remember that? Yeah, so where they're being held. So I hope that's the beginning, and there wasn't anything prior to that. because it seemed to be like the setup, and then you get all of the backstory, and Chris Pine's doing his little joke about, which I was really, because I don't think I've seen any. By the way, full spoilers again. I don't think I've seen any shots of his daughter. So when he was doing his little backstory about his wife and kid, like to get out of jail, basically, I thought that was going to be a misdirect, and it was going to be a complete fake out. Turns out, no, he did actually have a wife, and he does have a daughter. So I was just like, oh, okay. I was really expecting the misdirect of like, oh no, he doesn't have a wife and kids. He was just using that as an excuse to get out. But no, it turns out that he uses the Aarakocra. Even though they get out anyway, they basically, before they even find out if they get out, they grab the Aarakocra and jump out the building, and then they go back and find out that, oh yeah, no, the guy who they worked with betrayed them and all that stuff. It's fun. I generally had a lot of fun with this this movie. Like, it felt very, because I've played Dungeons and Dragons before. I'm not great at it. I haven't played it in a while. I want to get back into it because it's fun. I like making up stories and having like adventures, and you get like invested in your characters and all of that stuff. I don't know the lore very well. I recognize some of the stuff. So I don't know how actual people who play Dungeons and Dragons religiously will feel about this, because I know there was a bit of controversy around the druid being able to turn into an owlbear and stuff like that. But I think because you can do Dungeons and Dragons world where they're set in your own one, this would be perfectly fine as just it's set in its own world, and it's not part of any of the existing canon. It's just its own canon, but it's using some of the stuff from the games. What else? I thought all the characters were enjoyable, all very well done. I thought stuff like the jokes were pretty good. I thought some of the jokes were like, I like the jokes. There are actually jokes in this that work. I thought the situations were fun. Yeah, ultimately, like the characters' like motivations all worked. Like Chris Pine having to go get his daughter, and him trying to deal with the death of his wife, but then ultimately realizing that because they're after the original thing was they get a tablet that can resurrect people because his wife died by something that only he couldn't. His wife died by a red wizard, and a red wizard's blade can't be cured. So having the tablet of life basically brings he could bring his wife back. So they do a prison. They try and steal that, and then that's why they're in prison, because they get caught because the wizard, the red wizard, who secretly is a red wizard, betrays them, and so does Forge, who's Hugh Grant, who was delightful. I really enjoyed his character. He gets some of the good jokes. Same, they put them in the trailer. His joke about, oh, I don't want to see you die, and then, so that's why I'm leaving the room, is in the trailers, and I was like, oh, that's a really good joke. Why did you show that? I know they showed it so that people go see it because it's a good joke. But yeah, so Chris Pine basically, and then Forge basically, Hugh Grant basically lying to his daughter about why they did it, so that he had like, oh yeah, no, this, because you go, oh no, he actually cares about no, he just wants someone who he can shape the way that he wants to shape them. Like, that's why he sees that the daughter is good, and if the daughter isn't useful to him, he'll get rid of the daughter. The self-confidence of Justice Smith. I'm gonna say the character's, like, the actor's name, because I can't remember the character's name. Because whilst they say him, I'm just like, I was not paying attention. So yeah, his like underconfidence of like not being good at magic, and then kind of learning to know he's good at magic is fine. I like the little explanations of all the magic stuff. Like, they're tongue-in-cheek. They're like, seems a bit restrictive that you can only do this with this magic, or why can't anything be solved by magic? And it's like, yeah, but there are limitations to what we can do. Like, they explain the rules pretty well. And then, like, you have just stoic paladin who comes in and just saves the day and then walks away, and it's just like, oh, okay. I like the druid girl. I don't think they needed to have the druid and the tiefling druid and Sophia Lillis, I think, and Justice Smith's character. Like, oh yeah, I thought the joke about them not working out, like, oh, she wasn't interested, but he was. I thought that was good until they make it so that, oh yeah, no, they are together. They do get together. That she's like, oh yeah, no, fine, whatever. We can give it another go. I thought it would be more interesting if she just went, oh no, dude, look, I'm not interested, and it was just like, oh, that would have been more funny. But yeah, ultimately, I thought like the dungeon. I thought the heist thing of trying to get into the dungeon was good, where they used like the little portal thing to go into the truck, like the cart, and then they place the thing in, and then they get into the dungeon, and then it falls over, and it's like, oh well, time to do Plan B again, or Plan A again. I was really expecting them to do the reveal of them all just sitting around a table and them being playing Dungeons and Dragons. I'm glad they didn't, because that would have been kind of... I wouldn't have hated it, but it's nice that they didn't do that. Yeah, I would see another one of these. It was really fun. I haven't formed many like opinions on it yet, because I literally have just like maybe 2 hours ago seen it. So yeah, ultimately, yeah, it's fun. I think people should see it. Yeah. So that has been TBO. TB Solo, to be honest. I hope you liked me talking about all of the stuff I've seen. Is there anything else? I could quickly talk about like Creed 3. Creed 3 was really good. Because this is all just the stuff I saw in March, basically. Yeah, Creed 3 was really good. Michael B. Jordan's first directorial debut. Thought it was okay. I like I watched all the first two before I see, and I think ultimately Jonathan Majors' characters didn't have as many stakes as like the second one, because it's like but I liked it. I thought it was good. But yeah, ultimately that has been all of the stuff I've watched. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully I can do some more of these, because I don't know what we're gonna be able to watch collectively together, and what we're not going to be able to, what we are and what we aren't going to be able to collectively to watch, because both of us are getting busier and busier. I'll still be watching stuff, but Dan might not be able to watch as many things. So ultimately we might have more TB solos. But yeah, if you enjoyed, share it around. Yeah, stick around for TFE. I don't know what the news is, because I haven't looked it all up yet, but yeah, it should be a fun time. We'll see you next time for TBO, which, let me just check what it is. It might not be, but I'm gonna check what it is meant to be. The Easter special. So hopefully we have something for that. Hey, look, whatever. Hopefully we have something for the Easter special. Might be a quiz. Who knows? It might be something simple. You never know. Anyway, lovely chatting. See you soon. Goodbye.